Hey guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Want to grab a spot? I love this on a beautiful summer day up here. We actually get a crowd of people that want to find out about this stuff. I love it, and just awesome to see all you guys out. Thank you. This is Startup Conversations. This has been something we started about 2 years ago, and it is really just kind of pulling good people together to talk about the back end, the back that you never see of some of the successful entrepreneurs, and hopefully the lessons that you take away are relevant to what you're trying to build. Right? The whole point is that you get to find out things and ask questions about things that you read the newspaper, you see these articles, and you never find out what really is going on. And you walk away with this really kind of empty, shallow information about how it actually applies, because you don't hear how it is, what the grind is behind it. So that's the whole purpose behind these things, is to give you guys that value. So really appreciate you guys coming out. Doesn't happen without sponsors. City of Vancouver, Victor is hiding out somewhere, there he is, hiding, awesome. Helped us arrange, this is the Aspen Room. They've been really amazing supporters of what we've been trying to do to get us connected inside of the community, funded inside of the community, and really just kind of be great collaborative partners, so appreciate it. Value Up Advisors is Martin Noches. He's not able to make it today. But he's been another business advisor that's been a huge help to what we've been doing and the mission of what we've been building. WTIA, if you don't know WTIA, they are the Washington Technology and Innovation Industry Association. And one of the things that Northbank really tries to do is not just we are obviously part of the Portland Metro, and actually, before I forget, a really quick question. Who's from Portland? Who's from here? A lot smaller than in normal. So it's a huge Vancouver crowd. I appreciate it. But to that point, Washington is very distinct in some of its benefits inside of the business-friendly environment, inside of the economy, and I don't know that Vancouver really flexes that as a part of the community, right? And it's now, what, 20% of the Portland Metro? And a very different tax structure. For those of you who live here, you want to raise, come on over. Yeah, we're starting to bring in some of that, the state visibility down here in ways that we haven't in the past. 515 Engine, Shirin El-Kashari has been an amazing supporter, helping us do video, doing tech, helping with all the events. He's amazing. And the work that he does is I always mischaracterize it, but he's a cloud consultant, talking to people about they're taking their systems online and what strategies and applications that they do. The Applied AI Association is an organization that we've recently partnered with because so much of innovation right now is happening inside of AI. What I didn't want Northbank to be was an AI organization, because I think there's a lot of work in startups inside of other areas, but the AI Association gives us that path to some really, really good, credible people and knowledge and experience that we're tapping to and bringing them into the fold of what we're doing. And a mystery one. I'll come back to that later. A new sponsor that's come on that we're really, really excited about. I'll talk about it after we listen to Angel. A little bit of a background of what we've been doing. 2017 is when Northbank Innovations was founded, and it really was for the express purpose of helping grow the community of startups and give them that information that they didn't have, encourage them, give them pathways and resources, whether it's through funding, whether it's through advisory, whether it's from simple connections, right? Finding ways to really get talk the real tech talk or the meat of what you need to help make your business successful. That means we put on events, right? The events are things like this. We'll talk about it later. This is expanding, which is really exciting. The programs are going to be run by some of the core advisors. The people that are surrounded inside of this organization are amazing. Phenomenal founders, exited founders, technical leadership, financing, operations, and those programs will be around very specific things that you as a startup you need to do, right? Is you're going to work on go-to-market, you're going to work on your product, you're going to work on operations or finance or something else, right? So they'll be very specific 6 to 8 week programs that you'll come in with 5, 6 other founders and really kind of get under the hood of what's really specific for your startup and what you're trying to build. Community. Again, having you guys out is absolutely amazing to see this kind of all come together. I literally was talking to Angel earlier that there's a heart and a soul to the work that he's been doing, and I really feel like this is a heart and a soul of what we do. You guys contributing and coming out is amazing, and as an entrepreneur, it's a very, very lonely journey, and we don't talk about it a lot, right? And understanding that you're not insane, that the crazy idea has a pathway, to have people that encourage you, and not just encourage you like your mom encourages you, say, yes, go, it's a great idea, but people that can really help you build it, right? Give you instruction and advisory and experience to add. And an incubator. Been a long time vision of what we've been doing is to build a physical space where we can actually have people come in and convene together, office together, have the advisory that comes in, and then have more direct pathways for growth. So more on that later. This looks lean, and it's not. I'll come back to it. For July, the last event that we'll have in this cadence is going to be on the 21st. It's an informal happy hour. What we've done is combined the Applied AI Association group comes together, and Venteki has been a long time group that we've had. They'll come together. That'll be on the 21st. There are more events listed over in the meetup group. We're transitioning over to Luma because it does a little bit better job of outreach. Because everybody always asks me, when's your next one? Oh, I didn't know about that. Why didn't you call me? And so trying to kind of get on top of that. But again, more on this later after the announcement. That's us. I always like finding out who's in the room and what's going on, what people are doing, what people are building. So if you've got something that you're building, I'd love to kind of get a quick snapshot, stand up, tell us what you're building, what you're doing, and maybe any way we can help. We want to make sure we give as much time as possible to a conversation with Angel, but let me know. Let me know. Stand up, let me know. There's got to be somebody building something. Yeah?
I'm Harrison Village, founder and CEO of Incypher AI. I am building the new global standard of how you embed metadata into text online for copyright protection and basically solving the problem of why New York Times is suing OpenAI for $4 billion and this entire industry problem. So I actually have a technological solution to solve this issue moving forward. I'm looking for people that are in this space either for IP content protection that are part of publishing firms or connection to AI companies that's secondary, really mostly media contacts that really care about this issue or are involved in these lawsuits or want to stop spending millions of dollars in lawyer fees suing over this industry issue. And yeah, part of the C2PA, literally writing the standard of how the industry does this. So, yeah.
It's amazing. We should definitely talk. I've got a connection out in Denver. Somebody's built a platform that's doing a lot of this bias training. So we'd love to talk more. Awesome. Anybody else building something you want to brag about?
I'm a software engineer. I retired in February, and I've been bored. So like, next meeting in May, and I went to go look at a lawyer. How lawyer websites suck, and then so I finally found one, and then we did his own website, and he like totally loved it, and then he had to pay me to do his website. He told his like other somebody he knows in the field did his website, and then I have like somebody else, but also maintaining the website. So like kind of sort of starting a web development company. I could do the tech side, I just don't know how to run a business. You know what I mean?
You're in the right spot. Well, I call startup a drug, and I happen to be a pretty good pusher, actually. So there's ways to do that and structure it, and you're around the right people. So thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah.
My name is Mark Thompson. I am a founder of a company called Acres Digital Asset Solutions. The things and products that I want to eventually roll out, I can't right now. I have to get the right policy and rules and regulations out first. So once I get that done, then I can start offering certain types of products like more affordable car loans or imagine checking accounts that give you 5% return, things like that is what I'm trying to work towards with even like local credit unions and things like that. So all I need is anybody that's interested or knows anything about blockchain, just talk to me. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, or anybody in fintech that might be a good connection. Awesome. Much appreciated, guys. Is it not working? There we go. Where did it go? Is that book sitting in back of you? Maybe? What did I do with it? Oh, I did. I put it up here. Sorry, my bad. I always talk about there's a way founders think. There's a way that we start to talk about our business. And I think the more successful founders learn really good ways. And so I'm a really big advocate of not just business books in general. I think there's a lot of really good ones out there. I think there are a few that are really kind of key and fundamental. And I try and talk about those every time. This is one of those. It really talks about story. It talks about narrative. It talks about, like, if you're new into entrepreneurship and somebody said make a pitch deck, your brain is wired to go, oh, search for a template. I'm going to get a 12-slide deck, and I'm going to, learn to put my, Tam Sam Sam on there, and my business model, my exit plan, and all this other kind of stuff. And we follow that, and we lose the heart and soul of what we're building. And what we forget is not only that path is built on this kind of narrative that you're taking on investment, but we lose the heart and soul, we lose the connection to what we're really trying to build. And this is an amazing book grounded in tons of fact and experience about really kind of building back that narrative, owning it in a really meaningful way. So, and it's the way to connect with the people, not just investors. It is not just about pitch deck so that you're trying to land the next seed round. It's really you starting to articulate the value of what you do and how you build it. So, phenomenal book. And I can't recommend it enough. So, that's it. There's normally a little kind of section that we put together that's a little bit more about kind of the stages and things. I didn't want to do that because I am really excited to hear on Health's story. He built something really amazing. If you don't know, I'm excited for you guys to find out because as he said, it was the stupidest and smartest thing that he did going into COVID, and it's just been exceptional. So, guys, Angel Medina. Yeah, you do what you want to do. We can put the chairs up. You can walk. Let me switch over to your.
I feel like I'm going to be pacing back and forth. I'm just going to sit down, guys, because I'm about the same height anyways. Did I just?
No, I had to switch over for you.
Just kidding. Starts with storytelling. Thank you for being here. My name is Angel Medina. I am the founder of Todos Media, Republica & Co. I know some of you from my restaurants. Thank you for coming to my restaurants. This is what we call the cold open. I'm not going to give you a lot of information. I'm just going to set the scene for you. The year is 2017. I'm 5 years into my job. I have a great job at the time, a dream job in many ways, a 3-story townhome in the marina, 2 dogs, a beautiful partner, and it was the turn of the administration, the first administration of this administration, and I was concerned about the state of things, young people more than anything. My brother being a DACA recipient, I felt was under threat. So I used to have this hobby where I roasted coffee for fun on the weekends. I would take 2-3 pounds of coffee, put them in a little roaster, and I would make it for my friends, and it became an obsession. So I saw it as an opportunity. I took 25 pounds of green coffee, And I said, okay, instead of donating to this cause that I believe, I'm going to roast this coffee. I'm going to send it out to my colleagues, and if they love it, which I'm sure I was hoping they would, but when they take a bag, they're going to donate $10 to United We Dream. That was the idea, and that's how the whole thing began. And it became such a hit with my own community, at least in that space where I was working, that the company said, hey, we like this stuff. You want to roast all the coffee for us for the entirety of the next month? And I said yes. So I moved from my little tiny toaster to a big roasting machine. I had a great mentor. And I went from roasting, 2 pounds in a weekend to like 75 pounds per week. And the learning curve, I cannot explain to you. If you're a good roaster and you're starting and you're roasting 15 pounds a month for your friends, you're doing great. You're learning a lot. I was doing 75, and it became so popular that people just kept drinking more. So we were going through like 100 pounds of coffee at the office. That continued for 12 months. All the money that I was raising was going to United We Dream, a youth-led organization supporting DACA recipients, deferred action childhood arrivals. These are kids that, against their will or without their knowledge, were coming to this country and living in the shadows for the most part. So that was my motivation. I raised over $6,500, something like that at the time. But then it became an obsession, and people told me they wanted more. So I found myself here. How bad do you want it? I had this great life, and I knew that this was my opportunity to pursue it, but I couldn't just pursue coffee. If I was going to do this, it had to be the thing that I always wanted to do. I wanted to travel the world, take a camera with me, and tell the story of my upbringing. I grew up in Mexico. I got access to a lot of things that people don't have, like rural Mexico and the food, the people, and I wanted to show that. And sure, there's a famous travel celebrity that did that already, but I said, I'm going to do that as a writer. But as a writer, nobody's just going to give you access and money to do it. So you have to be your own producer, your own star. So I envisioned this whole thing, and I said, okay, if this is my path to do it, how much am I willing to sacrifice? And this is where the conversation got interesting. I went to my partner. I said, I'm thinking about doing this and giving up our cushy life. And she said, you realize that if you do this, it's probably going to break us up because you become obsessed with these things. And I thought about it, and we were mature enough, and we were at a point. And that's how it started. How much are you willing to sacrifice? I made that decision, and I visualized it all. How it was going to be, the show that I was going to shoot, where I was going to go and talk about mezcal, a thing that people weren't really talking about 10 years ago. That I was going to share the beauty of the culture and my heritage. And I saw it. I envisioned this man walking through the fields the way that I imagined him, or I remembered him as a kid, my own nostalgia. That was the show. I made the decision. I opened my first shop. This is Kiosco. This is a 14 by 14 space. It had more character than it did space. And it was special to me because this is where I was able to take the same idea, right? It was like nothing else in Portland, my own language. Café con leche, café de olla, cafecitos. All these things that you didn't really see that I grew up on, I wanted to give it to the people. I wanted to have the menu in Spanish, so it was a bridge to a conversation where you were curious as to what my background is, and I was going to tell you, and there was going to be no, guardrails there where I wasn't going to feel offended because you asked me what part of Mexico I'm from or where's your family from. That was the intention of it. And that became the thing. And I opened that. Then I opened Con Leche. And I opened La Perlita. I opened three coffee shops in 1 year, which was stupid. But I tell you that because I did everything with intentionality. This is a word that I use very much from the very beginning. I created things in there that connected with you, the way the menu was laid out, the things that we were offering, the way that we were going away from the way people had done coffee for as long as I've been around, right? The people that you saw there look a lot like myself. The language that we used, the music that we played, that's intentionality so that you felt like you were either somewhere else or if you were from somewhere else, you felt like you were at home. That was on purpose. Those things resonated with people, and that's the way that I was able to build that. We did that. This is the EcoTrust building. This is La Perlita. Every one of these shops felt very different from the other, meaning that instead of building this empire that people think about of continuing to replicate the same thing, I wanted them to take the shape of what the neighborhood was. La Perlita, or the Little Pearl, was a small coffee cart or yeah, you could call it a kiosk, in an EcoTrust building. That's how we started. About a year into that, I took a break. I went to Mexico. I went to source coffee directly from the coffee that I was selling. I went back to the people. And what you see here isn't necessarily the producer. The producer has a different life. These are the people that work in the fields. And this is one of the most influential things to me because it showed me the difference between the producer who lives on the top of the hill, that has ATVs, the truck, that has a good life, that goes back to the city. These folks live in the fields. When they're done cultivating coffee, they cultivate tomatoes. When they're done tomatoes, they cultivate avocados and so forth. It was everything to me because it made me appreciate what they do, so much so that I carried that when I opened my restaurants, where my dishwasher became the most important person. And to date, it's still very much a culture that we always make sure before anybody eats, the dishwasher eats, right? Or that he takes a break in between. These folks were going out there 12, 13 hours on steep hills, bugs, rattlesnakes, ticks. They're used to all that stuff. And it changed me. And it brought me closer to this decision. Are you getting closer by the day? Like, how am I keeping myself accountable? Am I doing these things back at the coffee shops? Or am I getting, and if so, am I coming closer to the idea that I'm going to have my own TV series? So I was faced with that decision. And I came back to this. How bad do you want it? How much are you willing to sacrifice? I had 3 shops that were doing great. I had a reputation of being the coffee guy from Mexico that comes and brings coffee to the world, to Portland. I had a great story, and I was willing to leave it all behind to go chase this other story of telling the story of coffee. So I did just that. I passed the coffee shops down to my employees. I lived for very little and traveled around Mexico for about 4 months just to gather enough material to say, I'm going to write this show. And I started making connections, started reaching out to anybody, producers, directors, anybody. And finally, somebody got a hold of it. They liked the script. And we started production in something called Las Alturas, a celebration of coffee culture around Latin America. That series went into production in February of 2020. And it was the greatest moment of my life. I finally got into the thing that I set out to do. I was going to shoot the TV show, tell the story, show the people. And 2 weeks into it, the pandemic happened. Like it happened to you, and it happened to me, and it happened to everybody else. Everything came to a halt. Everything that I had sacrificed to that point, the relationships, the lifestyle, my coffee shops were just gone. You know, I found myself in the place of, do I stay in Mexico or do I come back to Portland? And if I come back to Portland, what am I going to do in Portland? I don't have the coffee shops anymore. And I thought about this Warren Buffett quote, be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. There's a lot of people that they were sort of silenced and paralyzed by what was happening, as they should. For me, I launched another coffee company 2 weeks into the pandemic. I launched Reforma, and I started dropping off coffee bags to people who would sign up and buy these things. And I spent the first 3 months of the pandemic, started with like a few bags, and every day by like month number 3, it became unsustainable to the point where I either had to hire somebody else or I had to reopen the coffee shop. And we reopened the coffee shop. I took La Perlita back, and I started building community. Pop-ups are pretty popular right now. Back then, it was kind of an idea. This is, again, 2020, July, as a matter of fact. And I said, look, I'm going to fill the calendar every day. And I'm going to have a different creative or a different person, a different maker come in and share what they're working on, that whether it's their bread that they've been working on in the last week, or there it is, or whatever baked goods. And then on Sundays, I'm going to buy a bunch of bread and I'm just going to give it away, and people are going to show up. You don't have to buy anything. So from that, within a matter of days, we started seeing the lines wrap around the corner. People lining up at like 8 a.m. before we opened, ready for the next pop-up. Every day was something different. So it was like a big atrium the size of this, but with a different thing. So the locals loved it. People coming from out of town loved it. The media loved it. And eventually the building didn't love it. They said, this is too many people. We're in the middle of the pandemic. So they said, look, we got this space, this business that went under, Laughing Planet. Do you want it? And we said, yeah, we'll take it. I will I don't know what to do with it. Mexican cuisine maybe, but it was going to get me closer. So we did just that. We took the space and we did traditional Mexican cuisine, the things, again, that I grew up on, the things that I know. We made a list of all the things that I hated about Mexican cuisine and Mexican culture here in the US. And we said, we're not going to do any of that. No nachos, no margaritas, no burritos, no chips and guac, none of that. We did the opposite. We made corn dishes. We sourced our own corn. We nixtamalized it. We turned it into a quesadilla like that, which became iconic in Portland. Simple dish, salsa macha, a quesadilla. And then that took off. And before we continued, before we even thought about opening this restaurant, I told my partners, which was my partner at the time and my business partner, I said, look, I know this is going to sound crazy because I have absolutely no experience in this, but I feel like I could create this because we've done it in the past with coffee. But we need to have some goals as to what the end goal is for us here. So for us, in the next 5 years, we'll know if it's a success. One, if we could stay in business. But two, we need to have a beer nomination. James Beard is the most important. We need to have a big write-up from a big publication, LA Times, New York Times. We need to have a big write-up from Food and Wine or Bon Appetit. And we need to win Restaurant of the Year at least once in the next 5 years. If we could do that in 5 years, which is a lifetime achievement, that means we did it right. And at that point, even if we're not making money, we did the thing that we set out to do. We did that in the first 16 months. Best new restaurant, Restaurant of the Year, 50 best in the New York Times, 10 best in America, Bon Appetit, Portland Rising Stars, two of my chefs, one of my coffee people. You know, I say that because a lot of this was, in many ways, I think, was it driven by vanity or was just a metric that I knew. The thing I learned the most about that is it didn't have enough mentors around me. I didn't have enough people to tell me, hey, maybe you should focus on like having healthcare for your employees and, you know, having a work-life balance. None of that mattered to me at the time. I was just like, I know how to create this thing and I know how to get people to show up to this. And it became the goal. And after that, it was like, well, we're 16 months into this. What do we do? We just enjoy making all this money that we're making. We didn't. We opened more things, which is, you know, we joke about that. Like, I opened 7 concepts in a matter of 8 months at one point in 2022. And it was another learning lesson. You know, you have these opportunities, people give you spaces, you say, I'll take it. And it was about helping the young people that started with me and giving them their own concepts and ideas. Was it too fast? Absolutely. Did I learn anything from the coffee shop business? Nothing. So I tell you that because a lot of what we built was built with intentionality. But it's the same thing that we do when we started is I ask everybody, what is your story? How are you telling your story? Who's telling your story? This is I mean, you guys know this exercise. What, who, where, when, why? It was very much the same thing. This is how we create. This is how we built restaurants. And this is why people attach to them. When you understand what that is, and you could tell your own story, it makes it a lot easier to talk about what it is that you're working on, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and so forth. Last year, I launched Todos Media, which is it's 3 things. It's a production studio, a media platform, licensing, and partnerships. This is a thing that I set out to do from the very beginning. I took a step back. I said, this is now or never. A lot of what we built, the success that we had, came from us taking the content that we created, whether it was video, photography, investing in ourselves in that way, and making these amazing shorts, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and it just got bigger and bigger. And that became that. Todos now, to give you a better idea, we launched last September. The goal was to get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, 3,000 hours watch, 100,000 views. And we were going to do that by creating 10 shows, micro-series we call them, about 2.5 to 3 minutes. Different themes like Bad Appetite, Cocina Noroeste, Roasted Till I Die. These are all series. And the purpose of that is that we wanted to give somebody on the other end the opportunity to see that we can produce in record time, but also that there were stories focused entirely on BIPOC and women, the most underrepresented groups. That number, that goal, we reached it in about 3 weeks. I think right now we're like at 36,000 subscribers. When we got to 10,000 in that record time, we knew that we were doing something right. We started raising more money. We started going after it, as the kids say. These are 4 shows that are in production right now. We went away from 2.5 to 3 minutes. We're now doing 30-minute series, hour-long series. Humble Kitchen, a story about chefs, their immigrant journey, how they came to this country. 4 of the hardest working chefs. We shot that in December, Memorable. We're shooting next month, 48 hours. We're shooting in the fall. We just finished shooting this. We shot Napa, Sonoma, Walla Walla, or the Gorge as well. And we got 2 episodes, I think, that we have to go back to for Willamette Valley. I share all this because it wasn't, there's a lot more steps in between, a lot of things that had to happen for that to happen, but the goal was always to get to here. Next, Rose City Till I Die. We'll shoot that in 2 weeks. After that, before check-in, we'll shoot that in the winter where some poor producer and his team will have to go to 6 small, tiny cities in Europe and live there for a week. And the beauty of it is that Hoka, which I'm wearing their shoes right now, is paying for this. For Rose City Till I Die, Travel Portland, Prosper Portland, these are the partnerships we set out to build. That's kind of where we are right now. It hasn't really, I haven't gone away from the goal. You know, I haven't taken a break. This is one of my heroes, and this is one of my favorite quotes. You rest in the end, not in the middle, because it's still very much that. I have an obsession with work. When I'm away from work, I go home and work. I cannot turn it off. I feel like I'm at an AA meeting, but like you guys know about this. You know, you're sitting there, you're just trying to have a glass of wine, watch a show, and you're like, I don't like this show. I'm going to write a better show. At least that's what I do. So anyway, thank you for letting me share my story. Please.
It's amazing, really. I've spent the last 2 weeks digging into Toto's, digging into what I can find out, because I love it. And one of the things that I've said, I think I mentioned it earlier, it's heart-led, right? It comes from just a really deep spot of where your passion is, what you care about, and I think that comes out obviously in the food, right? There was a huge piece of that, and I love seeing that translated into Toto's.
Thank you. Yeah, Todos has been fun. Todos was the thing that I mentioned in the very beginning. This is what I set out to do. Nobody was going to give me that opportunity coming off the street and now being a professional writer. So you carve your own path.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. I deal with a lot of founders when they come in with an idea, right? And there's one certain concept, and they may have aspirations to do something else, but they kind of feel like they have to kind of, I won't say cram that down people's throat, but it becomes a journey. The product that they start out with isn't the product that it comes out.
Correct.
Where it ends in the end, right? And I kind of see that journey coming in through coffee, coming in through concepts, you know, and moving into the storytelling, right? The narrative. There's a common thread, but it's a real evolution too.
Right. Yeah, I think for me personally, at least, it wasn't supposed to be a platform. It wasn't supposed to be something that I've had 87 different meetings with VCs, with venture capitalists. And in the beginning, it used to be just excited to be sitting in a room with somebody, nervous to be sitting. Yeah. The last couple I've had, it's like, look, you're interested or you're not. It's that simple. Like, you don't understand this because you're not in this world of media. You're too busy worrying about AI. And the tone's changed because I have a little bit of momentum on my side because I have a product to show for it. Everything that I've done so far has been very goal-driven. And how do you get to those goals? By working backwards. Whether we're talking about like reaching the status that we did with coffee or accomplishing everything, a lifetime of accomplishments. Like, my story of the restaurants is not a story that's, if you were to write it as fiction, it would be very bad fiction because the world doesn't work that way. You don't come off the street, open a restaurant group, and then win these awards or the accolades. It's just a stupid idea, but we made it work.
Yeah.
Todos Media is not that different. When you tell somebody I'm going to start a media company that eventually will rival that of like Netflix, and you leave it at that, and they're like, all right, cool, good luck. But it doesn't have to rival in a sense where like, this guy's been doing it for 25 years now. Yeah. For us, it's about making so much noise that somebody, whether it's CBS, with Paramount, or whether it's any of these bigger conglomerates see it as like you have Latinos and you have BIPOC in one platform and people are watching it, and you have production and you're doing it and the shows are good, we'll take it, right? And that's always been the play with it. So VCs understand that now because they see a finished product. They see a show that is supposed to be bad because we don't have the experience, but then it's really good. At least I like to think. And I promise you, if you email me, I will send you a screener copy, just don't share it, of Humble Kitchen, which we just finished a color correction, the first episode. And I would love your feedback. I mean that. I would love your feedback on this.
Yeah. Well, I love the narrative, right? Because we deal with a lot of people that come in with the idea of investment, and they kind of, they live in the Shark Tank lie, right? Is that you come up with an idea and somebody's going to pay me to build it, and they know it's not like that, but they don't know how to break out of it, right? And I think you presented something different, and the ones that didn't get it, I just think that's a really different, interesting dynamic.
It makes it really uncomfortable. Like if you have friends, like for me, I had friends in hospitality before Republica, who I went to with this idea, and they're like, "No, man, you need margaritas, you need chips and guac. These are the things that make your money. Or you need a loss leader." I'm like, that I don't know what that means. I mean, I knew what it meant, but like it didn't make sense to me. I said, "Look, I'm going to build it on something entirely different," and it's really strange because these are like people that are established restaurateurs, and truth is, they're probably making a lot more money than I am, but it's awkward now because I surpassed. Republica as a group is the most successful Mexican hospitality company in the history of Portland. And I would argue that from what we've been able to accomplish in this amount of time, we're probably the most successful of any restaurant group in the history of Portland. And that's, if you're just focused on accolades. Don't look at my financials. If you're just focused on accolades, that's what it is. But again, Republica was not the angle. Republica was just another step. I needed to have that credibility in order to walk into a room and say, I'm going to build a company based off of, a media company based off of food and beverage, travel, lifestyle, health, and culture. These are things that I know really well. And here's how I prove it. I ran a successful model. This is the things that we want. So if at any point tomorrow, and I mentioned this to you, if at any point tomorrow I had to stop everything that I'm doing with Republica, and I didn't get any of my money back that I sunk into it, I'm okay because it's built everything else on this side with Todos. And it's easier for me to recognize that and know when it's going to be time. I'm not stepping away anytime soon. I'm not making an announcement, but like, it'll be easy for me to just walk away from because it did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to take me to the next stage, to bring me closer to what the end goal was supposed to be. That shot of the old man walking, that's a shot from Memorable, which we shot. And I wanted to be very specific because this is the thing that I imagined. This is the thing that I saw growing up as a kid. The guy walking down next to the agave plants with the machete, and it was so vivid. I'm like, one day I'm gonna tell a story. And it's not the same guy that I saw as a kid, but like I got to visualize it and see it all the way through.
Yeah, it raises a really interesting question. How much the people that supported you along the way, whether they were funders, whether they were people, were they buying into the whole vision of where you were headed?
No, nobody was going to buy into the vision. We raised. When I say we raised, myself, my partners, the great late Chef Laro, and my partner Olivia, we were sitting middle of the pandemic. We're in the backyard, just talking shit about all the bad Mexican food, and then she just got tired. She's like, "You guys talk so much shit, and you haven't done anything. You do your little pop-ups here and there." We're like, "Yeah, but the pop-ups are so much better." She's like, "I will put in money if you guys start this business." So. She literally wrote a check for $12,000, put it on the table. It's like, okay, now you two got to match it. So we started Republica with $36,000, which is nothing. It really is nothing when you open a restaurant. And I remember when we opened Republica, even the day of, we're like, we don't have silverware. So we went to IKEA, out of all places, and we bought like 3 sets, and we're like, damn, these like 50-piece sets are like $100. It's like, do we really need another one? I was like, no, man. We're good. And the funny thing is that, we opened on Election Day, of 2020, which is a really stupid idea. But it made sense at the time, and it was just dead for like 2 days. We're like, wow, this was bad, and then it wasn't. And when it wasn't, one of us had to run to IKEA to buy another set. So this is one of the things that I tell young people all the time is like, one, if you're going to open a coffee shop, don't. I try to talk them out of it, and I always ask them the question, how much are you willing to sacrifice? Yeah. Think about your life right now. Think about your days off, your vacations, the time that you spend with your family, 4th of July, Christmas, Thanksgiving, funerals that you don't get to attend. This is a life that you're signing up for, and if you're okay with making that sacrifice, then you go for it. But if you want to work 8 hours, 5 days a week, this is not going to be the place. You're not going to have that success. And it's my way of saying don't do it. They never listen. But
Well, we were joking around about Matt and Zadie.
yeah,
Right? Good Cafe X. I think you know guys have been a supporter here. Great location. We have our open coffee down there. Angel knew them.
yeah. But when they were
before they
still
opened.
roasting
Yeah.
for fun, I think for the farmers market, and
Yep.
and they were kind of all over the place. They just wanted to like get in the business, and at the time I was very encouraging because I hadn't gone through any of this stuff. Now I'd be like, don't do it. But I'm wrong because they're killing it.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, they asked me before they were opening up the spot. They found out we were, advising entrepreneurs and everything else, and they said we want to open a coffee shop, and I'm like, don't do it.
Yeah.
No, just don't do it. And I
again-
love being proved wrong, right? I mean,
But that's the thing though, is like when I talked about like when I the picture of the business cards and the coffee, I had those business cards printed before I decided I was going to do anything, just to see whether or not I felt comfortable, like with the idea of this is my job now.
Yeah.
And going door to door and saying, by the way, I'm a roaster. I'd love to like share my coffee with you. And it was you almost have to try to get yourself psyched up for that scenario, and the idea that you're not going to have another day off, and that you're going to spend a lot of your time. I opened Kiosco July 1st, my first day off, 7 days a week, from 6 a.m. getting there to set up, to open at 7, to closing and leaving that coffee shop at 5 p.m. I started July 1st. My first day off was November 17th, every day, nonstop. And the only thing that kept me going was that, like, this is temporary. This is just part of the step to get to the thing that I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. Was that in the Pearl?
That was in the riverfront, in the marina,
Oh, okay.
where McCormick and Schmick's and all that is, and where the boats are.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a nice little space.
Yeah. That's awesome. The other thing I've been binging on, The Bear.
Oh yeah, I hate it.
I was going to say, does it hit too close to home?
Can I tell you what?
or
No, it's
anything
not
else?
close to home. No, if it was close to home, I'd be like, I'm doing something terribly wrong. I think that here's my problem with The Bear. This industry has shifted drastically. I walked into a kitchen that was on fire, metaphorically, meaning that it was toxic culture that was sort of not necessarily going out, but it was being talked about a lot more, right? And coming from corporate, I'm not used to people communicating in certain ways, especially when you're talking about, no offense to my people, but like, there's a lot of passive aggressive behaviors and sexist and homophobic comments that exist in kitchens, especially when you're talking about a kitchen that's never been supervised. I'm not just talking about my people, like the Mexicans. I'm talking about everybody that works in a kitchen, and it's okay because you're in like the middle of the game, right?
Right.
I didn't like it, and it was a challenge for me with my partner, who he was the executive chef. For me, it was just like, oh my God, these guys are just. I think they're going to fight right now. They talk like this to each other, and I didn't like any of it. And I can't imagine my kitchen or people talking or being that passive aggressive with each other, and it changed, and it created a friction. But my kitchens now are incredibly boring. Everybody's nice to each other. They've been taught to provide feedback in a way that's productive. I see that you're doing it this way. However, I've been doing it this way, and I think this is how we do the thing. So show me your way, and let's see how we can meet in the middle. This is a simple exercise that I had to teach it, because they're like, "No, you idiot! What are you doing? You're cutting it wrong." Like it was that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I hated all of that. So when I watched The Bear, I watched this thing that's like what the industry was, and then you have like Eater and Bon Appetit and all these magazines talking about how like the industry needs to shift. But they're talking about how great the show is. We're like
celebrating that culture.
None of
as
this
much
makes
as,
any sense.
Right,
it's fighting with each other. The same editor of Portland Monthly now, who's talking about talking about this chef that's toxic and his masculinity and all the things. It's also talking about how great the chef looks in the bear. And
Yeah.
it was such a clash where like I watch it, and I think if I heard anybody speaking to anybody the way that they speak to each other in that show, I'd be like, get the fuck out.
It's funny. I see a lot of that coming, founders coming out of the military too, right? That camaraderie that, you
Right.
know, when you're in that situation, you just start talking a different way. But yeah, it's an amazing thing to tackle.
So I played sports throughout my whole life in high school and college, a little bit of college. But I'm used to like yelling at each other when you're on the field. You're just like, there's nothing like that. And it's the biggest struggle that I've had in these kitchens has been with me, just like when we're in the middle of it, that I become team captain and move that over here, bring that over here, take that over there. What are you doing? Come over here. And it's all in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
But because I built these my kitchens are soft as described by some people. People are like, hey, I didn't appreciate the way that you raised your voice this way. And we're like, that's fair. I apologize.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't take it personal anymore. Sorry. You got something.
Yeah, question. I have a few questions, but what I want to ask is, how do you know what milestones to set? Like, you should come up with goals for like what you want to accomplish, and the timeline kind of like it's whatever it happens, right? So the timeline that seems like accomplishing like faster than you set out to. How do you know those are the milestones you want? You know?
Right.
I know that's a good measure of success.
It wasn't, with the restaurants, it wasn't. I think we got it done.
Right.
We got to that point. We figure out how, look, if I wanted Bon Appetit, for example, to write about me, which is the biggest one, I had to figure out how Bon Appetit thinks. So I said, okay, well, where do they get their information? When they're doing all this research, how do they know to come to Portland and try this thing? So they're like, well, I met with somebody, and I asked them, like, what do you do? And they were a writer, and they said, well, we go off of local blogs, we go off the local publications, we see what influencers are eating, and then we make a combination of that, and we narrow it down, and we say, okay, let's go try this place, and that's how it comes out. So first thing you do is you take care of your local writers, and then you take care of the influencers, and then you take care of the bloggers. So when you do all those things, it was easy for me to I don't want to say game it, but it's a strategy, right? Because they were the ones that were writing about it, knowing that Bon Appetit was going to read it. I didn't realize that it was going to work so fast. Now, could I have been working on something more productive that would have had a greater financial impact on my business? Probably, but it wasn't the goal that I set out to do. I set out these vanity metrics, because they were vanity metrics in many ways, because they don't have a way to, because best thing that could have happened is that I would have gotten somebody's attention, which I did, and they would have said, hey, I want to invest in your business, which I've had many of those conversations where a developer or a building owner will say, I will give you whatever you need for this space. And we took those in the beginning because we're young and dumb. I don't take those now. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the building if you're giving me ownership on it. Nobody's giving me ownership.
Yeah.
My follow-up question was just like, how do you do your promotion, to attract customers to the business? It sounds like you actually work with people in the industry, which is the bloggers and the writers and stuff. So that's kind of how you
Figure out who the most important people writing about the subject that you're taking on are locally. That's the first one. Make friends with them. I know that's going to sound really basic, but it really is that. You tell me about the influencers out there. Give me some names. I'll be like, oh yeah, I know Nori. There was this kid who I loved who was like the best coffee writer, in my opinion, in Portland, and this kid traveled from Mexico to Japan. He's Mexican Japanese, and I liked him so much that I was like, I just want to see this dude open a shop. So when somebody came to me, when Schoolhouse Electric came to me and said, we got this space, this building, you can have it for nothing. I didn't have the space to I didn't have the bandwidth to take it on, so I was able to reach out to this kid. I said, hey, I'm going to pay for the equipment. You go in there, and then you pay me along the time, right? This is how you pay it forward. Doing that wasn't necessarily a strategic move, but it paid off to be that. So what that does is that he's hyper-connected in the world of coffee, hyper-connected in the world of influencers. So, if you followed Republica and the changes we had in the last month, it was easy for me to call him and say, hey, man, now that he owns this coffee shop, can you bring your friends for dinner? I'll take care of it. So now you have 8 of the most important influencers in Portland that overnight flip my business and give me 2 to 3 months of just steady business.
So to get the connections, because my last question was going to be, how do you get the funding, like, how do you get connected to the venture capitalists and stuff, like, how do you get their information to call him? It sounds like you kind of like,
credibility.
connect you, right?
That's it, credibility. If you have credibility in something, you know, it makes it a lot easier to have this conversation.
But they come to you, or like, how's that?
No, a lot of networking. You know, I got to go to Stanford last year for a Latino Business Action Network, which is a group of like Latino entrepreneurs. It opened a lot of doors for me. It started those VC conversations. They were the first ones that were placed in front of me. And when you realize how that whole world works, because it wasn't my world, it makes it easy to know what it is that they're looking for. Sometimes those VCs or those investors are doing a favor for a friend. They're connecting, like I could say, hey, can you connect me? They're like, yeah, sure.
Yep.
And they're doing it because they're friends. A lot of times they don't give a shit what you have to pitch. They're just there to like listen, right? And that's okay. Yeah. You have to read the room sometimes and be like, look, this guy's not interested. I might as well keep him and being friends. Yeah. As we launched Todos, what I learned from this was that when I was having these conversations that were going nowhere, I had a collection of all these names and numbers. So when we decided to launch on our own without any help, except for Chris Magana, who's in the room, I don't know where he went.
He had to take off. Yeah.
Chris Magana, who was here, was the first guy like, what are you doing with this? This is great. You need money? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
He gave me a check. And I was like, all right, cool. So then I took it to my lawyers, which were also a new thing, right? Like when you go into media, it's a lot. When I got into the startup world and I went through Stanford, I got very lucky that I got connected to all these things. So I got into this like whole, you know how it works, this ecosystem.
It is.
But, you know, every time that we hit a major milestone, we send an email out to those same people that started those conversations.
Yeah.
And some people that are like randomly, I'm like, I could have sworn I had a really terrible meeting with that guy.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is really exciting. Let's jump on a Zoom next time. Tell me what's happening. We're like, all right.
Well, somebody mentioned this, and I took it to heart. Some of the most important conversations that are going to impact your life are going to happen with you not in the room, right?
Right.
And so it's the impression you make in the room, right? You talk about that credibility. You have that gravitas, you have that credibility walking in. It starts a ripple effect for all those people that are out there.
And it's incredible how that works. I got invited to a poker game with a bunch of VCs just to come in and pitch. These guys play poker. I don't know, the VCs, people with money do weird shit.
There's a whole thing about poker and startups too.
Yeah, like I show up and they're playing poker. They're like, put it on the projector. I'm like, okay, and I'm talking, and they're just like, I race you 20, and I'm like, dude, I'm in the middle of my pitch.
I'm talking.
And at the end, this guy's like, that's not gonna work. You don't have enough subscribers. I'm like, you don't have enough views. I'm like, we're not going for views. Views are not the thing that we're doing. We're going for subscribership. Subscribership's more important. And we get this like into this argument. He's already like 2 whiskeys in, and I'm just arguing back and forth. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, go focus on your oil company. And the next day, he sends me an email like, hey, man, I love your passion. Let me know how I can help. I'm like, what the fuck? I thought it was the worst. I came out of that meeting just so worked up. I'm like, why did you waste my time with this? And this is one of my advisors, one of my, from Oric, which is my legal team. They set it up. They're like, dude, you did great. You stood your ground. I'm like, sure. Yeah. But again, every conversation leads to another conversation. Everybody that has gone through this knows that it's a numbers game and it's a patience game, and you just got to wait it out. Yeah. And you know, that's where we are now.
So I have a question sort of related. So have you changed your strategy on setting metrics to balance accomplishments and
with all those?
You think through monetization now?
That was the big one. Is that like? So I'll give you an example. When we shoot a show, you know, before it was just like passion. This is going to be a great show. We're going to find somebody to sell it because we have the money to do it. When you start writing about it, you're like, we should probably find money for the show. And then you start building a Rolodex. So before check-in, Hoka is giving us money. Roasting Until I Die, the city's giving us money. 2 different organizations. Her Way, we got money from Napa and Sonoma and the Willamette Valley. So it's not a lot of money, but it's enough money to pay for the production of it. Because what happens after the production's done, we go out there and sell the show.
Right.
So the mindset now is like, we got to sell some shit. Yeah. We gotta create enough. We're in a race to create as much meaningful content as possible. We're at 46 hours of content right now. We need to get to 100, so that when you turn on your smart TV, and you have like Tubi and you have Roku, then you'll find Todos as well. And when you click on it, you see all of our content. And that's a race that we're racing. But to do it, It's a lot easier to go out there and find the money first and figure out how you're going to pay your entire team. So it's different because a restaurant makes money all the time, every day.
Yeah.
With the media company, you're paying your young producers, directors, writers,
Yeah.
so forth.
What's the challenge with VCs investing in the media company? Because they don't really care what
Yeah,
they do.
yeah.
They want to make money.
Payout structure is really different than what you're trying to do. Normally, you're not.
I love that
hearing-
question.
People learn.
Yeah, love
They
it.
see the formula and they think I'm just going to blow them away and they're going to love my idea. They don't really give a shit about your idea. They
Correct.
don't know how
They
you're
don't
gonna
care.
do
They
it.
just, I agree with that. So what we did is that there's investment, the same way that there's investment companies for whatever they're trying to raise for, right? Funds. There's investment firms from media. So there's people that will raise millions of dollars to go invest in a movie, in TV shows, and CCG, which is the last investor, said, look, you got a bunch of pitch decks. We like what you're doing. Give us these 4 shows. We're going to give you $500,000. And what's going to happen is that you're going to use that to produce it, but we're going to stay on the back end. First thing is that when you sell the first show, we're going to help you sell it because this is what we do. They're in the business of taking your show, selling it to like the Roku's, Amazon Primes of the world, but it's got to be good. But they have those connections, meaning that I don't have to do anything at that point other than just produce. So they take their money back first. And then after that, they take 25, well, they were trying to take 50. It was like, fuck off. They're taking 25% of everything that show makes for the lifetime. They're on the credits as producer, executive producers, and if this show makes $1 million of revenue of evergreen in the next 20 years, they're doing, or 10 years, they're doing okay. And they're probably gonna make that per show. So that $500,000 investment becomes a lot easier. So it makes it so that I don't have to go out there and beg somebody to like own 5% of my company, 10% of my company.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing these one-offs, and it's the best deal that you could possibly ask for until you don't need it.
So I feel like you are artists who learn the necessary evils.
Correct.
Continue to create.
Yeah.
Because your restaurant to me was not a restaurant. Your restaurant to me was a journey.
Thank you.
I learned more eating at your restaurant in one session than I probably learned in
Oh man,
a
that
year.
means so much.
And I'll give you a really good example. I don't know how many people have gotten there, but the food was fantastic. What really, really impressed me, especially in this town, was you had a Mexican sommelier who educated me on Mexican wines and the heritage. And most people would look and go, I thought Mexican wine was tequila. and it was fantastic. And he gave me a journey and an education in that I could not have gotten anywhere else.
I thank you. That means the world.
The wines are great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the mezcal.
And the mezcal. I will tell you, as we keep evolving and expanding, you know, one of the conversations I've had is like, why did you close the Noche? There's this thing, you know about the innovator's dilemma. You build something and then somebody else tags along and says, I know how to do that cheaper, faster. And when we started República, there wasn't a wine connection. We went and started a import company in Tijuana. Not joking. I have family in Tijuana, so it's a lot easier. But we had a list of all the wines that we wanted. And I had that list because I found the one young Mexican som that came from that culture, that understood it, that was obsessed with it. I said, give me the fucking list. We're gonna go out there and find it. And we're gonna create this thing. So then we started this import company to sell the wine back to a distributor who would sell it to us at a premium. And that's wine.
Nothing like market stacking.
And you're like, man, this is some BS. Like, I know how much you paid for this wine because we sold it to me. So, but it was the way that we were able to start with at least like 12 different SKUs, right? And after that, when they seen the potential of it, when they were selling so much, they're like, okay, we got it. And they figured out how to do it. But you left that crumbs behind so they could do it. With mezcal, there was about 6 to 8 SKUs of the Ilegales, the Del Maguey's. I had to go to every liquor store and say, you should carry this, you should carry this. And there was only one liquor store, 11th Avenue, who was like stupid and crazy enough to listen to me because a good bottle of whiskey will cost you, a decent one, 60 to 80 bucks. A great bottle or a good bottle of mezcal is gonna cost you like 200, right? So for them to buy a case of this thing that nobody really understands, right? Because mezcal isn't, like the quality of it isn't measured by, you can't perceive it. It's a different agave that you're buying. You're not buying it because you're buying a $200 bottle because it's a depistate of a plant that is 35 years old before they can harvest it. So it's very rare. It doesn't necessarily mean that it tastes better than the $40 one. And that's where the dilemma that some of these people have. We're like, I bought a $200 one, I like my $40 one better. They're just very different. So we had to teach people how to appreciate that. And it became an education with the food, with the experience. When we're talking about corn, nobody was doing corn before this, like nixtamalizing it. And now I'm seeing a lot of, I was telling him about this. I have 6 of my former young chefs, people that we developed, and they're like my children in many ways. My former executive chef of República is doing a pop-up. My former chef de cuisine is doing his own pop-up, along with the former sous chef, which is his wife. And then you have Ancestro, which is killing it, which is also 2 of my former sous chefs, one from Lilia, one from the Noche. And then these 2 kids that were my sous chefs at República that I had to replace are now doing a pop-up in a space that I gave them. And I had to give them that space because it was my way to say, go do daytime stuff. Stay away from my evening. And you guys can cannibalize each other if you want, doing your lunch thing. Am I helping my community? Am I developing them? Absolutely. But it's like I mentioned to you, like it's like your kids are not rebelling, but they're like, oh no, we've done this all on our own. Like, oh, you haven't. Like, here's a restaurant. Go play. Go stay entertained. And I know the margins on this stuff. I know that they're driven by the same passion, but a lot of these pop-ups are starting to look like spin-offs of the thing that we created. It looks like República food. And the stories are the intentionality. It's really good, but I'm not here to compete with them. And in a way I am, so it's like, how do I minimize my exposure to it? So I cut it down to 2 restaurants. I focus just on the evenings. I let them do whatever they have to do. I support them as much as I can. And then hopefully they'll eat each other alive. I don't know.
Thanks. I gotta keep an eye on time because I gotta make an announcement.
Please.
I have one last question though.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm gonna jump in because what's next? I heard something about you chasing something.
Yeah, Todos is going to be. This is a bold statement I'm going to make, but within the next 3 years, it'll be it'll be the biggest like BIPOC-owned media platform. And you can think of the ones that are out there, Revolt, you can think of Me Too, Remezcla. We know their metrics. We know what they've been able to produce in the time they have, with the money they have. We've already surpassed them in content. We're about to surpass them in subscribership, even though that's not our goal. But the thing is that when you see the product, when you see the 30-minute shows, the 60-minute shows, and you're going through the same process of like James Beard nominations for media, all these accolades start to line up, that's when the CBSs of the world and the Netflix of the world will come knocking and say, okay, we're not going to buy you just yet, but like, what do you need to continue operating? And it's just a matter of time. So,
yeah, well, like I said, I've been binging on everything from learning more about mezcal. By the way, Yesenia and Clamadia, Clamadia, you know them?
yeah,
That's cool. I have a great story as well, but yeah, just binging on it, just amazing stories you're producing.
Thank you.
And
the micro series feels so long because it's like 2.5, 3-minute videos. The 30-minute shows that are coming, those I'm excited for you guys to watch. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. Angel, thank you so much. It's amazing to have you. So I did say I have one. I don't need that. One quick announcement, and there is a new. I said a new sponsor. It's exciting, something we've been brewing for a while. The VIC. Who in the room knows what the VIC is? Vancouver Innovation Center is the old HP campus where they used to make all the printers. It's a phenomenal light industrial place, and it's over on the east side. We've been having some conversations with them over the last couple of weeks, and they have invited us to house our incubator there. So it's real, it's coming in. There's going to be a door to walk in, looking like October timeline when we'll actually open up and have people coming in. But we are talking to people and having tours and talking about what the facility is, what the operations look like. So this is absolutely becoming real. These are some shots of the interior space that we're working inside of. It is a phenomenal. The entire place is 170 acres. The facility right now has, I think, 700,000 square feet. We're looking at a couple of different places, but very likely be able to house 15, 20 early stage companies that we'll be working with. That'll lead us to do more events, to do more programming, to pull people together, to have a consistent door to walk in. One of the things that we've been doing, I think Chris called it the floating crap game of our events that have been here and there and every other spot. And so we're really excited to have that as a home. The events we're gonna keep the events going, right? So we've had 3 consistent events, which have been the Founder Coffee, this Startup Conversations, and then the Founders Happy Hour. We're expanding and leaving 2 of the events over here because we want to cover the area in a different way. We know it's a different trek over there. But in order to do that, we had to shuffle the schedule. So we've lined this up. I talk about my rabbit brain that remembers, the first something, the second something, and tries to kind of put all this in place. So what we're doing is the open coffee. We called it the Startup Coffee in the Couve, or Startup Couve Coffee. And there'll be a downtown version that's been at Cafe X. That's been the first Tuesday. That's staying the same. It's not going anywhere. It's a great location. We love them as partners. And so we'll continue to do that one. We're putting a second one in over at the Vic. Over at the Open, they have Foodie is the catering company that is, they've got 3 or 4 different locations. That's their commissary kitchen, and they also serve the cafe. So we'll put a second one on the second Friday over there at the Vic. So that's usually gotten about 10, 20 people, I think, and we're seeing that, we're hoping really that expands because we've heard a lot from the Camus crew that says, hey, how come you're not doing anything on the east side? Well, now we are. So, yeah, that's going to expand. That'll be the second Friday. This has been classically the second Wednesday of every month, and we're going to have to move that because what I'm trying to avoid is that we end up doubling in these things that are back to back, and there's 3 events in a week and all this other kind of stuff. So this will be on the 3rd Tuesday, and that will be over at the Vic. Consistently, that will be over at the Vic. There's a large open space that we're, or a conference room. We're still trying to kind of figure this out, but right now there's a great space that's open. We want the VIC participants to come in and collaborate inside of it, be a resource to them as well. So we're excited for that. And then we're leaving, again, the Vantecchi, the combined happy hour, Vantecchi and Applied AI is still going to be at the Brick House. That's downtown, but we're moving that to the 4th Thursday, whereas that's been the 3rd Monday. So anyway, this is a new schedule. You can take a picture, but also have put these up on our meetup page, but also on Illuma. We're starting to, Illuma it's a very similar app, but what it has is a lot of outreach. Like I said, a lot of people come to me and they're like, how come you didn't tell me? And I'm like, I kind of told everybody. I didn't, if you didn't see it, I can't help. So it has a little bit more outreach, a little bit more positive. So I would suggest that if you log into the Illuma, you can subscribe to the calendar. Once that's in there, I put in an event, it tells you about it. It's going to say, hey, guess what? There's a reminder. You can opt in and all that kind of stuff, but it's a little bit more active about letting you know what we're doing. So I would love it if you jump into that. So there's more to come when it comes about the incubator and a lot of the other things. Happy to talk about what those things are, but that'll probably be the subject of another event. But any quick questions, I'm happy to answer now about what next steps are and stuff like that.
Are you going to do like a grand opening or a kickoff?
We are. It's all the stuff that we're building. Like I said, we're talking to a couple of people that are supporters. Really what we're looking for is it'll be a membership-based, and then we'll have the advisors that will come in and operate there, and then also the supporters that are there. So we're talking through those people about building it out and the space and what it'll look like.
Any co-op space?
Sorry?
Like co-op space is not necessarily tied to the incubator, just like hoteling or remote work?
Possibly.
You need help?
Huh?
You need help?
Let's talk. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes, answer is yes. I didn't. Sorry?
Corporate sponsorship?
Really looking at a couple of would love a couple of key sponsors to come in from a corporate perspective. We think, the city's been amazing, right? One of the things we just went through, if you don't know and haven't seen this, the city is really leaning in on entrepreneurship and innovation, right? They've identified this as a strategic thing that starts to free up budgets, it starts to free up people. Victor has been amazing at helping us get connected. We also see that there's other companies in this area that want to be connected to that innovation, right? There's this whole dynamic of if you're inside of a company, then your head's down doing what you're doing, and strategically you start to work on innovation initiatives. And some of those things need expertise. Some of those things need pathways, investors, everything else. And so, yes, we're looking for companies that want to really align with that.
Do you want to talk about the vision for this site long term?
Or what side?
For the big, for the whole 20-minute commute?
No, I won't go into the. I will say, we just completed our 5-year economic development strategy. One of the things that our community said is they really do want to see Vancouver be an innovative center. So we want to make sure that we're supporting Northbank Innovations doing a lot of the work here. And as we're growing, we're going to be the second largest city here in the state of Washington pretty soon. And right now, the majority of that is really housed in Seattle. So the fact is, people are moving into Vancouver more on a steady base, and that's where our universities and our educators and our people want to be at. They don't want to cross the river to Portland, they want to do the innovation here.
Yeah.
Relying on Northbank to create that.
Yeah, well, there's such convergence. We talk about the story of Portland has been the story of recovery. The story of Vancouver has been growth, and we're really leaning in. All of the state is starting to see that. Obvious challenges in sight of the economic development and all those things, but it's the right time. It's the right time to do this. So we're really excited about where it's headed and what we can do to help you guys. So I can't remember if I had another slide. No, that was it. That was it. I wanted to finish up. We actually finished up only 2 minutes overtime, which is good for me. So thank you guys.